Well, this is the beginning and this is the end. What I mean by that is this is a fairly new Texas Star Sweet 16. Kind of the end of things here as far as what we're seeing come out of the Texas Star line for a lot of different reasons, none of which I'm going to get into in this video. Gentlemen, it looks like Toshiba's. It smells like Toshiba's, but it's a cheap, sloppy knockoff. This thing was made with Toshibas in it, but it don't have Toshibas in it. These are fake Toshibas. Now, I personally question if this came out of Texas Star like this, because this is a Texas Star stock combiner. This is not a Texas Star stock combiner. So I kind of wonder what's going on here. I am not going to point any fingers at Texas Star to keep the fervor down, I guess would be the best way to put it. Somebody else might have had their fingers up inside this meat sandwich. But we are going to remove all of these transistors. We have two down here that are exploded. Their 10 ohm magical smoke has come from their 10 ohm magical smoke holders, and so has the 1.6 or 1.8 ohm resistor has decided to let out the jism. So this is pretty much just a power wire upgrade transistor swap. Now, this guy was so cool that he bought from my friend Tony over there at ICA a bag of matching 16D08s, which is good because that's the right part for this box. It means he's been paying attention. This kid that owns this box, he's a little bit younger than me. We had a great chat on the phone the other day, and he says, man, I'm going out to the bar and I'm going to go see if I can get me a new girlfriend tonight. And I says, man, you know, when I was a younger man, I was 28 or 29 and then 30 and then 31 and then 32 and then 33, I decided that after my first starter kit wife got out of the way, I was going to really pioneer the art of the pickup. And I geared my whole life around that for almost 5 years. And I got bored, and then I met a really special woman, and I got married, and I put this ring on my finger, and I don't look back. But I said, you know, my man, when I was in the bar back in the day, I'd meet a cute girl, and I'd get to talking with her for a couple seconds, and I said, you know, it helps to have a little bit of game. I said, my favorite pickup line of them all was, you ready for this? I'm not going to lie to you, young lady. Your hole is my goal. And that would usually work, believe it or not. And he says, no way. I said, yeah. He was laughing. He goes, well, I'm going to try that tonight. Next day, he's sending me pictures of his new girlfriend that apparently the line worked on. So then 2 days later, he goes by and he messaged me. He goes, so have you ever had one of them like look you square in the eye when you say that line and say, well, which hole? And I said, well, yes, I have. And my automated response for that was always the same thing. Ready for this? It doesn't matter, because I just want to touch your belly button from the inside. And then I would say, follow that right back up with an automated response of, and it doesn't really matter. What's 1 inch amongst friends? I still want to touch your belly button from the inside. He was blown away. Yeah, you know, it pays to have a little bit of game. He fell over dying. So I have faith he's going to use those lines in the future. Now that I've passed them all along to you guys will try and use them as well. Which gives me faith in humanity. Back to the task at hand. When we come back, all the positive wires are going to be out of this thing. We're going to do a full up distribution network on it. Like we can tell, this is a late run model right here. We can tell because of these power wires, and there's no fuses. The holes aren't even punched out for the fuse holders. Thank God they deleted that from the system. If you are going to put a fuse holder in your shit, don't. Put a breaker on it. Put it all the way up by the battery. Get yourself a 250 amp breaker. Put it up by the bateria. Like as close to the battery as you possibly can. If you absolutely feel you need to have one, I strongly suggest that you do a breaker. Put it all the way up by the battery, and then try to run your wires as most uninterrupted and continuous as possible. For this, you want to run a minimum of 4 gauge off your battery. Minimum. Not 8, 4. Crimped and soldered connections, of course. Okay. I'll come down off my preacher stand. We're going to strip this out of here. Strip this. This is definitely not Texas Star-ish. This is Stereo Shop's aftermarket idea. And we're going to switch it over so that the fans are continuously on. We're going to remove this. I don't know, maybe Texas Star went to this. Maybe they'd finally ran out of the 7 billion fuse holders they ordered back in the 80s. Which have worked well. I'm not dogging a fuse holder, nor am I dogging the amplifier in any way. I'm just saying that that fuse holder system that they have used for 5 years has worked. And maybe they finally switched over to this. But we're going to bypass that. We're going to bypass and remove the thermocouple in here and make it so that the amp has to turn on. So when you turn the amp on, the fans turn on. It has to happen. This is going to be a 2-part mini-series, by the way, boys and girls. We're going to do a Texas Star DX500V. I said, do we care about switches? He goes, no. I said, good. Because the amount of work that goes into replacing that entire switch pack is a pain in the ass. But me being me, I think I might have some technology and we'll be able to get these switches back fully functional again and get a knob cover to put on that. So once we get this done, we'll switch over to that one. And for all of you that haven't tuned out already because of the grossness of my pickup line, remember, you can only use those pickup lines if you're able to back it up. Just happened to notice this. So this one's bad. That means that resistor's got to get changed as well. I'm just going to replace them all. Let's move on over here. Sorry, clutch. Release the clutch over here. I want to point this out. This is definitely not Texas Star's doing. Somebody else has done this after the fact. These power wires give it away. Those little tick marks, they say everything. Somebody drugged their soldering iron over the wires. They were going in here to work. This is not Texas Star style, nor were the zip ties that were in here. So obviously that issue is addressed. So we've got 3 dead transistors out of 8, and they are all fake Toshibas, which means somebody tried to scam somebody at some point, or maybe they knew. I don't know. We're just going to go with they're fake because we know they're fake. And we'll show you that they're fake just based off of, and I mean that the Chinese copy is getting better and better, but you can still visually look at it and tell that there's a difference, and it comes down to the quality of the foot. These Chinese manufactured transistors look remarkably like these Chinese manufactured transistors at the foot. So, but I wanted to grab this on video. I wanted to make sure I took all the blame off of our friends over at Galaxy Radio, Texas Star. So on that note, let's get to work. Because I am in Babble-dee-Boo, and this is We'll Start Today with You. Da-da-da-da. Measuring in inches. Fake HGs. Or fake Toshibas, I mean. Bibbidi-bobbidi-boo. So 4, 8. So now we'll measure the Toshiba. It's real Toshiba, yeah? Oh, yeah. Bibbidi bobbidi boo. It's just a small amount smaller. Now, the foot thickness. 9.2, 9.4, 9.5. The fake Toshiba. It's thicker. So what do those numbers remind us of? Ooh, look at that. And Look at that. Moral of the story is these are fake as frig. We can tell just by looking at them with calipers. The other way we can tell is the foot here. If we look here, you'll see that there's a cut that's right here at the base of the transistor. You see how it's round? Well, go over here and we look at the Toshiba. Show it better on this side. Yes, better on this side. The cut's flat. If I take and I put the two back to back, you can clearly see the bottom one's a fake one because the foot's thicker on the bottom. The bottom one is flat on its ear, where the top one is canted. But this here is the easiest way to tell that we have left. And have faith, because the Chinese are good at copying everything. They'll eventually copy those outside characteristics. I don't know why it's just so hard not to just make the real thing. Right? It doesn't make any sense. There's no more claim on the real Toshiba. They could simply tool the machine up and make the same component. And call it something different, so we know that there's a physical difference. Like call it 2878 or 2999 or some bullshit. You know what I mean? Oh well. That's their way. The only thing they care about is that instant gratified sale. Anyhow, let's get over here. Let's this thing is completely done as far as modifications and repairs. Brand new resistor on the combiner. 1, 2, 3, 4 new resistors for the 1.6 ohmers or 1.8 ohmers. 4 brand new 10 ohmers. And we washed this and we got big hunks of shit that came out from underneath the board that looked like this. I was floating around underneath, actually specifically this board. So, needless to say, it is time. We're going to repill this thing real fast, which means slide some gobbledygook on the bottom of the himajibbies here. And then we take the himajibbies, we throw them in the holes, and then they're going to make little RF babies together. Yeah! Well, 8 HGs later, a bunch of soldering, some upgraded power wire, Anderson clip, and we're ready to plug it in. What's going to happen? It's a $6 million question. How well is it going to work? I don't know. Let's go find out together. It's been a long-ass weekend, but worth it. So worth it. I can't explain to you what I did this weekend, not quite yet, but it's coming soon, and I think it's a wonderful thing what I was able to go do this weekend. Goddamn wonderful thing. Okay. Go in the hole. There we go. Down in a hole. She's feeling so low. Okay, so 2950 antenna. Let's go over here and take a look. Still don't have any power on the box yet. It's not what we're looking at. 1000 watt slug and peak, 1000 average, 5 watt slug and reverse. Hello, 1, 2. Hello, 1, 2. Hello, 1, 2. Okay, it's 20 watts of drive. Hello, hello, hello. Pass through tune. Hello, hello, hello. Hello. Pretty goddamn good. So, well, how big are your balls? 3, 2, 1, contact. Okay, nothing blew up. That's a good sign. LEDs are working on the front. It's a good sign as well. Let's go over here. Let's grab the trusty, dusty old FLIR. Get it chooching for chachin'. Oh yeah. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Okay, ambient air is 79 degrees. Hello, 1 2. Hello, 1 2. Hello, 1 2. 1 2 1 2. Hello, 1 2. Hello, 1 2. All right. How many amps are we pulling? Hello. Hot tea bag. Hello. Okay. Start ramping our volts up a little bit. We're going to go from 12 to 15. Yippee-ki-yay. Hello. Hello. 1 2 1 2. That's 1,000 watts with 20 watts of drive. Hello. Hello. 1 2. Which isn't too bad. Shut that down. Switch radios now. See if it's happy with the striker or not. All right. Oh, power too high. Hello. Oh, it's tickly pink. Hello, 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Audio 1 2 1 2 1 2. So this hash mark here is 1,000, 12, 14, and then if it hits the 80, it's 16. So hello, 16, no problem. Hello, 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. According to the striker, we're happy. We got a good inputs. We're good. We can run around the parts. Balancer's okay. The balancer's okay. Final stage. No, the actual piece of ferrite's really hot, but resistors are okay. We're good. Well, okay. So we up transistored it. We repaired all the burned up shit. We put new power wire in it and put a decent plug on it. 4 gauge only, by the way. This is what we need to run this thing with. Let's move on to the 500V. Well, first things first. I know this looks good in theory, but this is the 50 amp Anderson clip, and this thing pulls about 60 to 100 amps. So I hate to break it to you guys, that's no good. It's a little bit too small. At least these are soldered. I'll give them credit on that, so that's cool. What we have here is our classic 4. I call it a 2x2. Meaning I got to replace these two and I got to replace those two. Completely smoked all 4 transistors. Don't know why. We got some effed off switches. I'm going to try some tech to extend the insert rods and maybe get him some new switches up front, but for the most part, this is a look at that. Look at that cap is fried. So is that cap. It's on its way. So we're gonna have to replace these 2 caps, clean all the burn out of this thing, take the 10 ohmers out, and flip-flop change out transistors. So let's talk about the switches in this amplifier. Well, let's talk about the switches period in Texas Star. One, they suck. And they're actually an adequate switch, but they suck to replace. So usually what we have to do is we'll pull the board out, and we got to get out our hot iron system, and we have to float all of these pass-through pins out, which is a nightmare. You sit here and you slowly heat this. It takes an hour and a half, 2 hours to change this out. And then after you get the switches out, then you got to go and clear every one of these vias to make room for your new switch if you have a new switch. Well, Texas Star, at the time of filming this video, has exactly 3 switches. Okay, 3 switch packs. This is the old school switch pack, where the lamps were grain of wheat, and these pins are what grab a hold of the connectors, these top pins. This is like straight out of the 80s, this switch pack. And that's what conducts the 12 volts back up to here to turn your lamps on and off. The trick to these, let me grab another board. Here, this one will work great. Okay. So the trick to these is, I have found in my humble, retarded, inept experience, to take these switches apart, you have to, one, remove the switch pack, which is held on with a clip that releases from the bottom. It's this clip here. Pop this clip, and then this whole pack assembly comes off, and it comes off like this. You have to take the board out to do this job. The next thing you do is you remove your output transformer and disconnect your wire, and then you're going to remove all of these components here on the surface. Then there's a little copper flapper that sits over the front. Well, this little flapper here. You pull this copper retaining clip out, you slide the spring off, you pull this copper flapper out, and be careful, there's a little tiny steel bar that is what allows us to have this switching action, this lock switch action. You slide that little steel bar out, and then once you have the spring off, the copper flap off, and you have the little retention pin removed, then you can very carefully slide the switch out through the back and replace the switch in the switch guts. Now the switch is either snap off in the front, like what we've had happen here, or these little pressure pads that ride on the inside of the switch past the posts. So you press the switch in and it rides on a post and goes back and forth. These pressure posts will burn up. It is much easier to disassemble the switch and slide the switch back through and replace the whole switch and replace the pads and then reassemble the switch than it is to remove this switch pack, for the most part. If you've got the right hood inductor system, the hood heat air system that allows you to heat up this specific area of the board, and you're able to take this thing out and you can apply constant pressure to this, you can slide the switch pack out, and then you can go through with an electric solder sucker and pull out each one of these and not F off the via pads. It's not an easy task. Everybody I know that's ever done this task, they all say the same thing. Oh, F that. It's a pain in the butt. I don't talk about this because this is one of these tricks that makes you a legend in the amp building world. If you figure, sit down and just take the time, use your looking peepers, and figure out these little tricks. Now, that's trick number 1. This is switch pack number 2. This is what I have in this particular amplifier. Here is our entire switch assembly out of this amp. So, this is different. These come apart from the front, which is way better. Let me explain to you how this works. First, you get your hemostats. You reach in here, you grab on to the rocker bar, and it's what rides in the little switch mechanism to give us the switching motion. Take a pair, or take your dental pick. You're going to slide that spring forward and you're going to pull that bar out. It's It's really silly important that we don't lose that bar. Then we take that same dental pick, and underneath the back of this switch is a keyway. There's a switch keyway that if you simply get your dental pick in the right spot and lift up, keep lifting. Let's grab a hold of the broken switch with the hemostats. This, a little bit of finagling, switch assembly just slides out. These are spring retentioned, by the way. One side. So they should both be spring retention. So in theory, if you run this out and take it apart, yeah, they're both spring retention. Here's the springs. If you take this switch out upside down, the little spring retention keepers can't fall out. See that? So instead of like 5 hours worth of work, you are now down to about 1 hour worth of billable time to the customer, as long as you have these switches. These are pretty hard to come by. This is my last set. What can I say? Texas Star ain't what it used to be. It just ain't what it used to be. So now all we got to do is reverse the process. So now that you guys know that trick, please still understand that's still $130, $150 worth of easy in parts just to fix this. Okay, because you're condemning that switch pack to this style of repair. Which, how often do you see this style of repair? Maybe 3 times a year. Then we got to put brand new buttons on the front. I put all brand new switches on the front, or display plates on the front, so they all match. I mean, it's not as a time-consuming nightmare as it used to be. Once I understood a couple things, like I did the switch thing itself, oh, I don't know, 100 times over the years. And I started to think about it. There's got to be a better way. And what I figured out is it's a lot easier to remove these components back here on the old style switches. Like, how hard is it to really remove this transformer? You unsolder one wire and you unsolder 2 pads in the front and the whole thing flips out of the way. And the same thing with all the resistors and everything. You can unsolder all that stuff from the top. With this switch pack, you got to take the whole thing, you got to take the whole amp apart. I mean, you got to take all the boards out, undo all the screws, disconnect everything. Everything's flopping around loose, and you usually end up having to fix 1 or 2 things from just you taking this out versus moving maybe 5 or 6 components here and sliding parts in and out. Because these pins, they never fail. The pins in the top of the switch doesn't fail. It's that metal contact surface on the inside that wears out. I mean, every once in a while you have a situation that's going to present itself to where you're going to have to replace the switch. But 9 times out of 10, that life hack right there will save you. Let's clean all the burnt shit off of this thing, and yeah, let's start going in reverse. Let's get this cap replaced. We'll get some 10 ohmers in this thing. We'll get our transistors installed, and we'll run it out. Let's get all the burn up stuff removed first, and we'll go from there. Well, here we are. 4 brand new transistors in it, 4 new 10 ohm resistors, 2 brand new bias circuits, one here, replaced. Switches all completely rebuilt, flybacks reinstalled. Input 1500 puff caps replaced with bigger, better, more badass stuff than this. That's because I don't have these little tiny caps. I just don't. Remember, on the 667, that's a 12, and on this it's a 1500 puff cap. Everything else is right. Washed it, cleaned it out. Got all the little flecks of shmoo out of it. So the only thing left to do now is to bring in a brand new piece of 8 gauge. On the positive side, bring in a new ground. Put a little distribution bar here, take some positive wire, go here, take some positive wire, go here, and we'll test it. Okay, so real quick, that is gotta show the element, 1000 watt slug and peak, 1000 and average, 5 watt slug and reverse back from the bird, 10,000 watt dummy load. So 5 watt slug and reverse between 2950. And over there, eventually, the other side of the microphone is another 5 watt slug and reverse between the 955 and the White Line 500. Full power wire upgrades. We're finished. This thing is done. Had to put a new knob on the variable, but everything lights up, everything works. It's got labels on everything. Preamp is working. So let's go over here. This is RF. We're showing you the drive now. Oh, hold on. Head 1, 2. About 25 watts. Up here, pass through. Head 1, 2. So good and good. Okay, now with the amplifier on high, well, first off, let's show you the dial watt. So push this button, now with variables in play. Dial watt's working perfect. That's low, by the way. This is medium with delay. Head 1, 2, 1, 2. And now on high. Head 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Our input tune. Head 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, which is not T-bag. Remember, this is a low drive box. So 25 watts going in. Head 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. We're making 500 watts on about 14.8 volts. With little to no reflect, everything's happy, everything's running cool. So now, let's hook up the striker, which would be the same as hooking up a Texas Star, like 2290 modulator. Okay. Amp off. Head 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Got it doing about 110 watts. Head 1, 2, 1, 2. And we got the striker set up so it's dead key in just a hair over a watt. All right. Now, when you go to the striker, you can't use this knob. You can use this. Sorry. When you go to the striker, you cannot use this switch. The dial watt is now not part of the equation. It's too much drive. It's also strongly suggested that we don't use this switch unless you're in sideband. So don't capitalize on the attenuator that's on this thing for sideband. So let's see what happens here. Head 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 700 watts, just as it's supposed to put out. Just like this. Head 1, 2. Head 1, 2. Head 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Head 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So it's all fixed. Making power just the way it should. Well, you know what? Let me finish cleaning this up. Let me put the tin on it. We'll be back for the wrap section. But for the most part, no, not for the most part. It is. This is done. Well, my man, you're done. It's all the bad parts out of the White Line. You're all done. This is it. This is the end of the story for you. I know they've been here a long time. I appreciate your patience, but they're all finished. I want to de-dust this one a little bit, but they're upgraded with every good part in them that you can get, and run the piss out of them and have fun. Really glad we were able to get your switches all put back together. But at the end of the day, it's just 2 more that are repaired going back out there in the world that somebody's going to be able to use and talk on the radio with. So on that note, gentlemen, my name is BBI. I want to say thanks for tuning in. Thanks for following along. And I appreciate every single one of you guys as my Patreons for sure. It just helps show a little bit of appreciation for the channel. Like I said, if you've ever learned anything from this channel or feel like you want to help the channel out a little bit, don't hesitate to come down here, right in here, to that web address and come follow along and help us out. It's $1. It's $1. It's $1. And I guarantee some of you guys watch me more than you watch Netflix or Amazon Prime. Just saying. Big shout out to XS. Big shout out to Siglant Bird, Coaxial Dynamics, MechMan, of course, as always. Gentlemen, I want to thank you. I am BBI. I will see you. And I am on to the next thing. Click, click, click.